faculty, level of research capability. Okay, so take note, null hypothesis is stating the absence of difference between groups. Okay, so another, how the level of system support impact engagement in research of the college faculty. Okay, so increasing the level of system support will result in increased level of faculty engagement in research. So for our null hypothesis, there is no significant relationship between the levels of system support and college faculty engagement in research. Hoping that this research question will not confuse you. Using the COMSI format, no, it should be stated in this manner. Is there a significant relationship between the levels of system support and the college faculty engagement in research? Okay, so what are the steps in formulating a hypothesis? The following are the steps. First, review your research questions. So you have to relate back to your research questions and check if they are researchable, testable, specific, and within the constraint of your intended objectives. Second, browse through available research and do a preliminary investigation. So gather information as much as you can. This will supplement your background or increase your know-how on the subject you like to pursue. Construct your hypothesis. You focus on the specific groups you want to involve, the pertinent variables of the study, and the predicted outcomes. You refine your hypothesis. So it is advisable that you phrase the null hypothesis. It is the null hypothesis that the researchers want to disprove or declared false, disprove or declare false. For something to be scientific, it must be able to be proven false. If things are falsifiable or able to possibly be proven false, then they can be used in scientific studies and inquiry. Okay, so we now proceed to theoretical framework. This is another section in chapter 1. Okay, so why do we need to prepare a framework for the study? Now, researchers need to conceptualize their study in a broader concept by seeing it through different lenses and from interdisciplinary perspectives. They therefore read and review concepts, theories, and analytic models that are relevant to the topic under research. Now, theoretical framework allows the researcher to connect with existing knowledge that holds support to the research problem under study. Now, let us define a theoretical framework. This presents a theory which explains why the problem under study exists. A theory is a set of concepts which explain and predict the occurrence of a certain phenomenon. The theoretical framework helps the researcher see clearly the variables that he should measure. It provides a general framework which can guide him in the data analysis. So, our theoretical framework introduces and describes the theory, which explains why a phenomenon of interest under study exists. It provides the structure in showing how a researcher defines his or her study philosophically, epistemologically, methodologically, and analytically. That is according to Grant and Usanlu in 2014. So it is made of interrelated concepts and theories that are used by the researchers to conceptualize a study in a broader concept, to draw connections among variables and make prediction. Now, researchers frame their research and justify their approach by grounding their study on established ideas coined by experts and authorities in the field. In other words, the theoretical framework is a space reserved for experts, for authorities in the field. This section particularly lays the foundations that guide the researchers in finding an appropriate research approach, analytical tools, and procedures for their research inquiry. And this further makes the research findings become more meaningful and generalizable. A research without the theoretical framework lacks accurate direction to the search of appropriate literature and scholarly discussions of the findings from the research. Now, what about conceptual framework? The conceptual framework consists of the researcher's own position on a problem after his exposure to various theories that have been bearing on a problem. So this is well connected with the theoretical framework, but the theoretical framework belongs to the authorities or experts in the field, while the conceptual framework is owned by the researcher. Let me provide example now to explain this. For example, theoretical framework, you see there are citations, no? The TESHD theory leads to the emerging movement advocating for the reorientation of education. Education for Sustainable Development, a United Nations initiative, is an emerging field. Okay. Now look, conceptual framework formed by the researcher is based on the theoretical framework. The TESD looks at how certain educational practice can lead to greater agency in learners. Learning to respond is central to make this assumption work. Accordingly, this calls for the adoption of time-honored educational practices, pedagogies, which may be highly symbiotic to ESD's concern. The pedagogical predilections of ESD are better understood in the dialectical constructivism paradigm that stresses active engagement and social interaction. Anchored on this, the better understanding of the epistemological roots and repertoire of practical action that may be taken in the classroom to implement ESD may lead to the desired transform. By the way, the TESHD stands for the Theory of Education for Sustainable Human Development. The TESHD is used by the researcher as a grounding theory for the current investigation. To contextualize the focus of the current investigation, the researcher will cover this focal point that exemplifies a sustainable institution within the organizational culture, physical place, and educational program. Now, the paper will review and reconsider the prevailing status and condition of the schools under study in meeting the specification and benchmark sufficiency of sustainability as reflected in their established norms, policies, and priorities along ESD or Education for Sustainable Development. So using the underpinning views and concepts of DESHD, the paper will look into the institutional practices that circumscribe the promotion of a sustainable physical place, sustainable green curriculum uh, of the schools being investigated or of the participating schools.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
so we have here another example. So
sige.
So how do we mainly differentiate a theoretical from conceptual framework? Up to that portion only, kay ang next na siya, the remaining sections under chapter 1, we have the scope and limitation, the definition of terms, and the last is, no, after framework, we have the significance of the study, followed by the scope and delimitation, and the last is the definition of terms. Okay, so how do we primarily differentiate theoretical from conceptual framework based on the presentation? Anyone? So what is the main difference between the two? Hello? Sige, I'm waiting for your answer. So how do we differentiate theoretical from conceptual framework? Okay. Theoretical framework. Again, you're looking for a theory or a concept or a model that will explain the phenomenon under study. Theoretical framework. This section is particularly reserved for the experts or authorities. So there is no way that you will present your opinion in the theoretical framework. Okay? So any theory that explains the current study. So let's take the example of, okay, faculty productivity in research. The problem is why the faculty engagement or productivity in research is poor. Why? So the poor productivity in research could be attributed to some factors that are personal or external. Tama? So for personal factor, maybe no, their capability in research is poor. They do not have the knowledge and skill in the conduct of research. Maybe they do not have time for research because of the subjects that they handle. So subjects handled, no? So ano pa? Other personal factors aside from their capability or subjects handled. Maybe it is not really within their expertise, no? So, background. No? So they don't have the needed background no, to do research. What about external? They are not motivated to do research. They are not productive in the field of research because of the poor system support. Okay, so the school or DepEd does not provide them with the needed budget. No incentives are given. So poor reward or incentives. Ano pa gid? Resources. No, they are not even provided with a laptop, no, with the needed equipment. And wala man lang biskan Grammarly or SPSS, no? Sa ila eskwelahan. So, wala sang available resources. Karon, you will now search for a theory that will explain this. Their research is poor. Why? For personal reasons, no? And because of the very poor system support to faculty research. So the reason why they are not motivated to, have produce in research. Okay? So I'm using produce as a noun because we expect faculty members to have a very rich research produce. But why are their research produce is poor? Why are their research produced poor? Because, again, of these underlying reasons. Okay. So, ano ang theory nga maka-explain sini? Dual factor theory. Okay, by amo na nga may philosophy of education kamo. I don't know if my spelling is right. No? So the dual factor theory, what will push teachers to do research? So personal, external factors, extrinsic or intrinsic factors. Am I making myself clear? So your productivity depends on your particular situation, di ba? No? And your workplace condition, no, the things that surround you, extrinsic. So, parehas ang maestra nga nag-perform. No? Pwede nga personally motivated, no? The motivation comes from within. Or, pwede ang motivation kay nanamian gid siya sa workplace. The relationship, no, with the peers, with bosses, very good. And that entices the teacher to do better, no, in his or her performance. So, ining dual factor theory, if you notice, our theoretical framework is heavily cited. We borrow concepts from experts or authorities. So meaning, no, ina nga section sa inyo nga research, no, dapat ang ginabutang ninyo dira insights of authorities, insights of experts. Next, from the theories presented in the theoretical framework, you will now form your conceptual framework. And the conceptual framework section belongs to you as a researcher. So that will present your personal notion, position as the researcher of the study. Am I making myself clear? So, dapat may expose ka na kay theories sa theoretical framework before you explain your study. Basically, conceptual framework is explaining your study and its related variables and the kind of connection or relationship between or among variables that you want to establish. So, less ya ang citation sa kay conceptual framework, no, sa Silliman University when I did my dissertation, no, ang una ko gid class nga proposal, no, nagmuno gid ang akon nga professor kay ti ang pag-introduce bala sa amon utod-utod man do hindi gid ya why kami seminar on dissertation writing or kwan more kami sa methods. When I presented my proposal, no, ang ila gali class nga conceptual framework ara sa chapter 2, sa kamsi ara sa chapter 1. So you start with the rationale of the study, followed by the statement of the problem, the statement of hypothesis, the theoretical, conceptual framework, followed by the research paradigm, significance of the study, scope and limitation, and significance of the study before chapter 2, which is the review of related literature. Kamsi format, we first have the Silliman format, no, they first have the a review of related lit, theoretical framework, then conceptual framework. Di ko na ko magtanaw, tsakto ang iya kasiliman. Kaya ang conceptual framework ma-form mo lang after exposure to literature and after exposure to several theories that could serve as the groundwork of your study. Am I making myself clear? Now, in LCC, they do not have separate chapter for the review of related lit. That's why sa CAMSI, our study rationale, 1.5 page only because we have separate section for the review of related literature. Sa LCC, they do not have separate section for the review of related literature because their related literature is embedded in the study background or study rationale. So, lain ang ilang format. Pero korekto sa akong panulukan nga dapat maulihi si conceptual framework kay review of related lit kag kay theoretical framework. I'll find time to present that to the council, no, kay daw naga-evolve na gid ang research subong. Correct na. Maka-formulate ka lang, constructs ang imo nga conceptual framework and study paradigm after your exposure to several literature and theories. Am I making myself clear? Now, pagkatapos mo, ay nanuman nga wala ko gali ka present screen. Sige ko di type-type, why ko ga present screen. So faculty productivity in research is poor. Maybe because of some personal factors, no? Influencing their research productivity, or maybe because there are underlying external reasons why they are not motivated to do research. So sa imong theoretical framework, ibutang mo ang Hertzberg. I am not so sure with the correct pronunciation, dual factor theory, because this is all about the intrinsic and extrinsic factors motivating an individual to be productive or to perform. Okay, then after that, mahimo ka na sang imo nga conceptual framework. So, anchored on Hertzberg dual factor theory, how do you explain your current study? Okay? So, paano mo explain ang imo nga current study? So, nag-identify ikaw personal factors, di ba? Nag-identify ikaw personal factors that might influence the faculty productivity in research. And what are these personal factors that may motivate or demotivate them to do research? So, pwede, ang ano to siya? Ang ilang skill to do research. Ang second, ang ilang subjects handled. Okay, and the last is their background with or without research training background. Okay? Kay i-operationalize mo man ni class. Magambal ka nga i-operationalize, i-define mo man na siya. What do you mean with background? Okay? So next, of course, you will include some external factors that influence their productivity in research. So what are these external factors that may influence their productivity in research? Okay? So, pwede nga ang school, no? Ang budget sang school. Okay? So, budget for research. So, ano na lang guro? Financial support. Okay? So, ano pa gid? Ang availability of resources. So, ano ni siya kagina ni? Ang in-budget incentives resources. So, financial support. Pwede ni siya nga i-specify tapagid school system. Okay? Support. Amo na yung external factors. School system support. Okay, so financial, ano pa? Technical. So ang technical in terms of provision to access to technology and other needed equipment or infrastructure. Maginatawag ba lang infrastructure sa research, no? So we're referring to the apps, technology tools that teachers could make use of, no, in the conduct of research. So next, ano na di gani ang aton nga tagaan gid sang focus, ang dependent variable naton is the what? Text. Okay, faculty productivity in research. Okay? So is their productivity very high? High? Average? Or low? Or very low? Okay? So next, after this, you do connection. First question, what is the level of productivity in research of the faculty when taken as a whole and when grouped according to, okay, personal factors skill, subjects handled, and background. Next, what is the faculty productivity in research when grouped according to schools? Okay, so this is another basis for grouping. Next question, inferential. Is there a difference in faculty productivity in research when grouped according to these personal factors? Is there a difference in faculty productivity in research when grouped according to school system support? And you use the dual factor theory to explain the type of relationship or the type of difference that you want to establish in your study. So the conceptual framework is always followed by a conceptual model or paradigm that illustrates the framework of the study. So kung ano na ding in-illustrate mo, amo na ding nakabutang sa text. So if the conceptual framework is reserved for the researcher, the theoretical framework is reserved for the experts, theorists, proponents of models. So that is the difference between the two. Am I making myself clear? Sa manghulam kaanay, sa mga experts ang ideas, for you to be able to explain your study. And you know, the theories presented in the theoretical framework still part of the literature because the meaning of literature is a very encompassing, no? So sa literature, pwede siya mag-take up concepts o theories. Am I making myself clear to everyone? So again, that is the main difference between the two. Karon, if you browse thesis or dissertations aton library, natingala gid ko na nga puro memorandum order ang ginabutang sa conceptual framework. Yeah, butang ko na memorandum order, bogin copy patanan kadamol-damol sang paper that will not make your paper look very scholarly. No, it's not the thickness that matters, but how essential are the things found in your research. Ang memorandum order, pwede guro one line lang or two lines because that trigger the effort for you to conduct the study, but you better place the memorandum order in the intro part or study background. So meaning, because of the issuance that faculty members in the DepEd need to partake or participate in research, this is now the problem because the teachers are unwilling to do research despite the mandate. O, di ba? Why are they not willing to do research in the first place? No, they are already nailed in the classroom from the first up to the last hour, bombarded with so many things to do. Di ba? Voluminous paperworks plus the distribution of modules. No, they could hardly find time to do research because they are overloaded. Di ba? Correct man? So mismo sa imo nga personal experience. Karon, ano nga teorya ang maka-explikar sina? So amo na ibutang mo sa theoretical framework. Next, paano ko i-explain ang akon nga current study base sa ina nga teorya kag obserbasyon? O you place that in your conceptual framework. Okay? So if you don't have clear delineation what theoretical or conceptual framework is, lain-lain ang ipamutang mo dira nga section. Okay? So, next na siya is the significance of the study. No? Sa significance of the study, stop na itong aton nga presentation, you simply try to identify the different stakeholders that will benefit from your study. Now, class, sa ibang eskwelahan, ang arrangement, kung ginatawag na kung sino ang mag-benefit sa imong study, sa ibang nga school, ang ginahimo na nila class, depende kung sinugid ang una nga maka-benefit sa study. So for example, biskan students pa, ang maka-benefit sa study, silang ang una nga ibutang. So who will benefit the most from the study? Dali lang gid class kay may ikuan lang ko gamay lang gid. Okay, sana makita ko. Okay, so here is it. Okay. So may lang kay nakita ko. This is from my advisee. Okay. Kita nun pa akong screen sa inyo. Okay, everyone, you look at this is the chapter 1. So we start with the study background, and the study background is only for 1.5 page, the most 2 pages. Then we proceed to the statement of the problem. Everyone, can you still see my screen?
Yes,
Yes, Doc.
Yes,
Okay,
Doc.
so we start with the general statement of the problem in declarative form, followed by the specific questions. These are descriptive, asking for the what is, and this is inferential, asking for the difference. This one is qualitative question. So mga balka qualitative, we cannot address this question using numerical answers. So answers to this question cannot be represented by number. This is also quali. This is also quali. And the last is the dissertation output. So after the data collection, analysis, and interpretation, and from the generated findings, she will propose for a management plan, action plan. So the statement of hypothesis based on one inferential question. So of the 7 questions advanced in the study, there is only one hypothesis because this is only based on the inferential question raised in the study. Now, the theoretical framework, if you notice, is heavy with citation. Why citation? Because we reserve this space for the experts or authorities. Nakita niyo? Heavy with citation. Now, the conceptual framework, if you notice, wala na gid masyado citation. Why? Because this is how you explain your study based on the theories presented in the theoretical framework. So you will now make use of those theories to present your study. So, hindi na siya tamaan ka citation, daw halos wala na gid. So what is the course or direction of the current study? And this is followed by a schematic illustration. So the study will call for both quantitative and qualitative analysis. No? So mausar siya mixed method analysis. She will start with a quantitative research, then will delve deeply into the matter through qualitative analysis, and then will combine quantitative and qualitative data, no, for the mixed method analysis. And then the study output, the sub-problem 7, she will come up with the management action plan. Okay, so after this, scope and limitation. Nagsuri akong presentation. So maghambal kita scope and limitation, you will simply indicate the who, what, where, and when of the study. So we have the who, our who here. Okay, so not necessarily who, no? Our actors, public secondary schools. What? Implementation and efficacy of modular distance mode, where schools division of Silay City, and when the school year 2020-2021. Now, nga ginabutangan na disang ibang delimitation. If we speak of the delimitation, it is within your control as a researcher. So for example, ining elements ang scope naton delimitation kay ikaw man niya nagapili kung diin ka makandak anong i-conduct mo, sa diin ka makandak, kag ano nga year ang i-cover mo. Pero nga ang nagbutang diri ang advice ko limitation, kay ang limitation plus nagatuhaw after the conduct of the study. So in other words, kung nag-propose ka pa lang, you cannot see yet the limitation of your study. The limitation is something not within the control of the researcher. So you cannot control limitation, but you can control delimitation because in the first place, you were the one who decided what to study, from whom the data will be collected, how the data will be gathered and interpreted. Pero nga may nagatuhaw nga limitation because sometimes in the course of your data gathering, things happen not within your control. For example, my good friend, Dr. Cleope of Siliman, okay, she had her proposal, the wife of the vice president. Nakapropose na siya sa Siliman. I-cover niya entire Negros 3 years back, no, from 2016 to 2019. And she requested me to gather data from Bacolod City. And when I went there, no, the in charge of the documents and records told to me, ay ma'am, bago lang ko ya ma'am, hindi ko na iya ma-retrieve kay nag-retire na ang daan diri nga clerk, no, nga record officer. Hindi ko na ma-retrieve, ma'am. Ang makita ko, ma'am, 2018, 2019 na gid lang. Wala na ko ya 2016, 17, 17, 18. Tiyan hunta na, ma'am. Okay? So she already proposed, but again, the available data that we could gather at that time covered only 2018 and 2019, and that was cited as the limitation of the study. Am I making myself clear? Why? Because Dr. Clipe, the enumerator, had no control over those documents. Am I making myself clear to everyone? So si limitation nag-appear right after na complete ang imo nga study. But make sure nga ang imo limitation hindi sa sample. Ay ma'am, ang nag-Slovene formula ko, ang akon nga sample size dapat 72. Pag retrieve ko ma'am sa akon nga questionnaire, 50 lang ang nagbalik. Pwede na ma'am, ilista ko na lang limitation. The answer to that question is no. Because if sampling error occurred in the gathering of data, that will make your entire thesis or dissertation wrong. The reason why you should always have a buffer. Okay? So may ginatawag kita nga type 1 or type 2 error. So dapat kung 72 imoon mo shin or imoon mo 150 if possible. No? Kaya nga may ara na ma-miss nila ila gender optional ang ngalan, di ano butang-butangan mo, are you going to manipulate data? So make sure that when you gather data, you always have a buffer. So in case hindi mo man na ma-checkir tanan, kapin pa ko naka-LBC, no, ang questionnaire, butangan mo gid buffer o pasubrahan mo. So kung ang data kulang, i-discard ang questionnaire and that can easily be replaced by another questionnaire. So am I making myself clear? So ang limitation, mga butang gid hindi naton makontrolar. May mga study ma'am nga wala limitation at kung didto mo lang gid delimit kag na carry out mo man tanan, so scope and delimitation. Many teachers are asking, ano gid bala? Delimitation or limitation, but there is this very slight difference between the two. Delimitation you can control. Limitation you cannot control. Am I making myself clear to everyone? Okay? Hi. Sabi ko, di na masapudlay. Ang nagawakal mo ang nagpamati.
Pamati.
Invitation ay. Ang nagpamati. Sige. Ari na, ang significance of the study naman niya, tunghambal ko kagina, may eskwelahan nga they will try to identify the group or individuals that will benefit from the most from the study and their names are listed first. Pero ang KAMSI format yaya, hierarchically arranged. So meaning, halin sa may pinakamataas na posisyon, pagkadto sa may pinakanubo. Department of Education officials, curriculum planners, allied partners, down to the future researchers. Am I making myself clear? So hindi pwede magunang students sa DepEd officials and make sure nga kung tawo na di tawo tanan. No? Tawo si curriculum planner, si allied partners, si school officials, hindi pwede nga DepEd dong babaw, sunod mo principals. DepEd is an agency. Principals are human beings or individuals. Okay? So, post naman lang niya ang significance of the study. So, you simply try to reflect on the findings of your study and identify the specific groups or individuals that will benefit from your study findings. Okay? And the last in the chapter 1 is the definition of terms. So, ma'am, paano ko mangita sang terms nga i-define ko? You go back to your research title. So, tanan nga ra sa title mo, research productivity, research capability, school system support, okay, all of them need to be defined. And then you go back to your statement of the problems, all variables, including age, sex, years of teaching experience, all of them need to be defined. And we arrange the terms alphabetically. Gina-arrange nato ng terms alphabetically. So we have class size, C, efficacy, E, and then followed by grade level. Pero may ara kisa class nga mga terms nga may subterms. For example, efficacy, effectiveness of instructional delivery modules, pedagogies, assessment of student learning, and sufficiency of provision. So all of these subterms need to be arranged under the main term. No, kay efficacy is defined in the light of these aspects. So imo man na siya nga pasunuron dira subterm niyo sang efficacy ang assessment, letter A, instructional delivery module, letter I, pedagogies, letter P, and provision to teachers. They are also alphabetically arranged. Next, every term should have a, pamati kada term, pati subterm, conceptual and operational definition. So let us take this one, class size. So the conceptual definition is a universal meaning. Meaning, amo na siyang ginatawag naton kag nga dictionary meaning, but modern day research does not anymore accept definition or meaning lifted from a dictionary. So meaning we cannot anymore use Thesaurus, Merriam-Webster, or Harvard. So ang conceptual definition should really be lifted from a research article published in a journal of sterling reputation. So amo ni nga may citation siya. Hindi ka pwede kabudyot sa imo nga conceptual meaning, hindi mo ni siya pwede makuha sa dictionary subong. No? So before sang time namon, time ni Ma'am Tipon, Sir Salmingo, gina-allow pa kami pero nag-evolve gid ang research. So ang aton nga conceptual definition or conceptual meaning should really be lifted from a research articles. Okay? So next, ang operational definition as used in the study. So, meaning iyan niya definition sang researchers. So, if you notice, wala kita citation. So, wala siya sang parehos niyo. No? Sa tutod lang, why ko ni gin-accept gani? Okay, glossary eh. No? So, this was changed. Okay? So, it divided. Okay, requesting everyone to please unmute your microphone. Okay, sige na kay patapos na kita, no? So hindi gid man ni pirmi mag-amo niya. Gali kay gin target ko gid nga matapos ang chapter 1 so we could proceed na sa chapter 2 next meeting. Okay. So ang aton operational definition or more citation because it is the meaning provided by the researcher to the term used in his or her study. So hindi mo na siya kinanglan nga i-citation, kailangan lang magkaugalingon mong i-citation mo dire, no? So this is a specific meaning. Although, kung tanawan nato ng literatura, nagambal sila ng conceptual meaning, the meaning of a term. And operational, how you measure. Conceptual, meaning of a term, and operational, how you measure. Acceptable man ha, pero taking into consideration the CAMSI format, no, magambal kay iya, nga operational, it is more really of the researcher's own definition of the term used in his or her study. Okay? So these are all about chapter 1. Okay? So we will proceed to chapter 2 next meeting. Sorry, gid class ha. Hambal ninyo mas mabudlay ang mamati sa magwakan. May lang gani kami lecture video, naka-prepare ako gamay, no, sang aton nga video presentation, no, pero dason wala na gid. So meaning wala na video lecture sa dason kay I really don't have time to prepare for the recorded lecture kay mabudlay man gali. I needed to be assisted by my son, no, para lang sa aton nga lecture video, but I'll be sending this to you through our Google Classroom. I'll make sure that the materials to be used as reference complete before I give quiz number 1. Sige, so these are all for today. Requesting everyone to please on your cam for the screenshot of this afternoon's meeting. Okay, mas screenshot anay ako. Okay, so thank you so much. And I really would like to request everybody's patience or indulgence because I know that research requires a higher degree of seriousness for everyone. And I am really hoping to have very fruitful interaction with you as we go along. Okay, so just be patient. Okay, so these are all. Nice meeting you. God bless everyone and stay safe. Friday, quiz number 1, and Saturday, we will meet at what time? Have you decided? 8:30 na?
8:30 lang, please, Doc.
Chat na na, sa chat na.
Ara na tanan pag 8:30 and hindi mag-usar cellphone palihog. Next meeting, kay i-introduce ko na si Monday, si Quill Good, and basi malabot naton si G Power sa Saturday, no? Sige. So, laptop aton usaron na para maka-follow kamo, i-forward ko ang sample data. Kung anong gina-click-click ko, di click-click nyo manda, no? Kay para maka-practice kita, no? Kay wala nga daan face-to-face. Di sa una, ginawiyatan ko pa ng kamot sang estudyante para tsaktong i-click. So, subong, kinanglan, gidya nga, tulukon yung gidmayo, din ang gin-click ni ma'am, kag anong alagyan. Okay? Kung pwede man nga may SPSS na, pero kung wala, why problema? Kay ang Excel, kabalo ko na da manultol tanan pati kay Cronbox Alpha, no? Remedyo, no? Kung Excel lang ang ara available, at amo na nga aton nga usaron. Okay? Sige. So thank you so much. God bless. The time now is 4:59. I dismissed the class earlier by 1 minute. Okay, you may now leave the room.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Yes.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc. Hindi na magsugod kaya may mga section ang inablos ko at siya alas 3 nagsugod. Okay, naka-dismiss na una pa sa aton. Hindi lang naglain ng buot nyo nga ginuubos ko kaya binugada. Nagsugod sa kiyang alas 3 naging pa rin iban sa aton by Diyos niyo. Okay, kami ang tools of research. Siguro kung talaga kaya class mo